following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Round 1 of the Spring Classic here in St. Louis. Two decisive results in Group A. Grandmaster Jeffrey Zhang defeated Grandmaster Jerabok with black. Plus, 2006 U.S. champ Grandmaster Alex Onischuk put away Grandmaster Alex Epitop with white. Group B saw only one decisive game, as Grandmaster Chandra bested Grandmaster Andrei Gorovets with white. Chandra is off to a good start as he looks for redemption in his city. This early, anything can happen. Coverage of round 2 starts now. With over $30,000 and pride on the line, 20 international chess professionals converge in St. Louis for the 2018 Spring Chess Classic. Hello, chess fans, and welcome back to St. Louis for the second annual 2018 Spring Chess Classic. This is round 2. We are in the midst of it. The players have started several hours ago, and we're here for the next 90 minutes or so to tell you all about the happenings and give you some analysis. I'm Ben Simon.
And I'm International Master Vitaly Neimer.
And already 2 games have ended today, and like you saw in the intro, Group B yesterday, that was all Akshat Chandra, the only victory thus far in the round, and then 2 decisive games in the top section as well. Vitaly, what are your thoughts so far in this tournament?
Yeah, I think that we're in a pretty good start. We saw some decisive games, but I still think that the players are still treading the water, just trying to see the comfort. That was the first day. They probably were tired from the traveling. So yeah, today I'm going to see some exciting fights.
It might be about to pick up. Let's take a look at last night's results. The round did not end until about 6 o'clock, right as we were going off the air. These are the results from the top group.
Yeah, we had a Grandmaster Bruzon drawing with white pieces against Grandmaster Darius Swerts. Grandmaster Sam Shankland drew against Grandmaster Lazaro Bruzon. Grandmaster Romain Edouard drew against Grandmaster Surya Ganguly. And we had, as we said, we had 2 decisive results. Grandmaster Alex Onischuk won with white against Grandmaster Alex Epitop, and Grandmaster Jeffrey Zhang won with the black pieces against Jerabok.
And let's put it into perspective for you and take a look at the standings after just one round.
So we have Grandmaster Jeffrey Zhang and Alexander Onischuk both leading with 1 point so far. And from the 3rd place until the 8th place, we have Lazaro Bruzon, Sam Shankland, Darius Swerts, Surya Ganguly, Bruzon, Romain Edouard with half a point. And at the bottom of the list, we have Alexander Epitop and Yaroslav Jerabok.
And the stories of this tournament may turn out to be the young Jeffrey Zhang and the veteran Alex Onischuk, 2 competitors who will be in the U.S. Championship this year, which starts next month. Momentum from round to round is a real thing. Is momentum from month to month a real thing, Vitaly?
Oh, I believe so. I mean, I think that if you are feeling in shape, then yes, definitely is. You're feeling that coming over, that win streak. Yeah, I think so.
Well, let's see. And now the Challenger section, or Group B. The round last night surprised us a little bit at the end, and I promise you, right as we went off the air, we had an unexpected, well, it became kind of expected result in Grabinski's game with a Wonder Liang.
Yeah, definitely. So we have seen a few draws in that round. Alexander Fier drew against JJ Alimarandi. Priyadarshan Kanapan drew against Viktor Michalevsky. Malkhasian drew against Jack Steinbruck. And as we said, Aaron Grabinski drew against Wonder Liang. The only decisive game was Akshat Chandra beating with white Grandmaster Andrei Gorovets.
I made a point of saying that Grabinski and Wonder surprised us because it did look like Grabinski had the upset for quite a bit, and then it petered out into an unwinnable position.
Right, yeah, so he was basically a piece up, and then I guess his king got stuck on a1, and there was no way to win that endgame. But still, I think that Aaron Grabinski, as the lowest rated player in that field, made a draw against the highest rated Wonder Liang. That's a pretty good result for the first round.
The highest rated and the defending Group B Spring Classic champion from last year. Now, if we take a look at the overall standings for the B group, we can see that it's a little lonely at the top, but not by much. Akshat Chandra, St. Louis's own, the guy lives right down the street. He's as St. Louis as any import can get. What a great guy. 1 point, leading the field right now, but it's oh so very early. Okay, so if we bring it back, we are all caught up to what is happening right now in the tournament, but we have games that are being played live right now. They started a few hours ago. We do have 2 results in. Let's take a look at the pairings that are going on right now in our Masters group.
Yeah, so in Group A, we have Darius Swiritz playing against Jeffrey Zhang. Alex Epitop is playing against Jerabok. Surya Ganguly is playing against Alex Onischuk. Lazar Bruzon is playing against Romain Edouard. And Bruzon is facing Sam Shankland.
And I think the game of the day to watch here should be Grandmaster Ganguly of India versus Onischuk of the U.S. Onischuk yesterday got a win over Alex Epitop, the battle of the Alexes, and so that should be the game to watch, in my opinion. But there are several here. Does anything stand out to you?
Let's see. I think it's going to be an interesting fight to see Alex Epitop playing against Jerabok, because they both lost yesterday, but I think we actually already have a result before that. But other than that, everything looks pretty open to me right now.
We thought it might be interesting. I want to talk about that in just a few minutes here, but that game is indeed over. Epitop and Jerabok have drawn, and Akobian and Shankland have drawn. But just so we get all queued up here in the right spot, let's take a look at the pairings in the B group that are going on right now. And you can catch all this at uschesschamps.com. Here they are. All of these games are still active.
Yeah, we have Andrei Gorovets playing against Jake Stembulak. Viktor Michalevsky is playing against Malkhasian. JJ Marandi is playing against Priyadarshan Kanapan. Wonder Liang is facing Alexander Fier. And Akshat Chandra is facing Aaron Grabinski.
And we have some dynamic games so far. Glancing at some quick analysis here on my own computer, and we'll be sure to look at it. But I think the game of the day here, in my opinion, is Akshat Chandra versus Aaron Grabinski. Let's see. I want to see if Aaron Grabinski can keep performing at higher than supposedly he's expected to. That'll be interesting. Akshat Chandra, of course. This game, you talk about momentum. This is the one I'm looking at right now.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I just was looking at the game live at the tournament hall, which, if you guys are here, come to stop by. I saw that Aaron Grabinski was blitzing out his moves, so I think he came prepared.
Indeed. All right, and this tournament is pretty simple to understand. The tournament format is 2 10-player round robins, 10 in each field. The time control, each player gets 90 minutes for the first 40 moves, and once they make that time control, they get a bonus 30 minutes added on to their clock, and then that is for the remainder of the game. No more bonus time there. All the players will receive a 30-second increment from move number 1, and remember, in this tournament, there are no playoffs. So hopefully we have a clear winner, but if we don't, they'll be sharing the prize as co-champions. Here's the schedule for the Spring Chess Classic. Every day, the rounds start at uschesschamps.com and here at the St. Louis Chess Club at 1 p.m. Central. However, the last 2 rounds, March 13th and March 14th, things will be getting underway at 11 a.m. This is not due to playoffs. This is actually due to Pro Chess League commitments, the Internet Chess League. So that's why we're starting early those last 2 days. We are on the air every day 2.5 hours after the round begins. So 3:30 for us every day, Central, and then 1:30 for the last 2 rounds. And to throw a little wrench into our plans, daylight savings time on Sunday.
Right.
If we so we'll be switching it up an hour, but we'll remind you, don't worry. And I'm sure all the clocks are digital now, so they'll switch on their own. We won't lose anything. These players are playing for a lot of prize money here,
Oh,
Vitaly.
yeah, definitely.
I want to take a look at the prize money in the top field. $22,000 prize fund. Look at how that breaks down.
Yeah, we have the first place is going to go home with $6,000. Second and third place, they are going to take $4,000 and $3,000. And everything else just breaks down $2,000, $1,500, and $1,000. Even for the last place, not too bad.
Yeah, pretty impressive indeed. And the B group has its own prize fund, a combined $14,000 up for grabs here. Look at that, not too bad.
Yeah, the first place is going to take $4,000, and then $2,500 for second place. Third place is $2,000, and then we have $1,500, $1,500 for last place.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Vitaly, it's time to look at the games.
All right.
What piques your interest first?
All right. Actually, let's see the games that got drawn first. So which one got drawn first?
The first one was Epitop and Jerabok. And they drew, you may notice, if you're following along on the Chess 24 module on US Chess Champs, that the players drew right after move 30. And we do have a 30 move rule in effect. And what that means is the players cannot offer and agree to draws before 30 moves. Now that's supposed to encourage fighting chess, you know, less lazy draws, less grandmaster draws, as they say. And it works most of the time. What do you make of this drawing so early, Vitaly?
Well, I think that both of the players, they lost yesterday, so they might be a bit upset, or they might be out of their preparation. So just to keep it on the safe side, maybe they agreed for a draw pretty early. But yes, just to mention that 30 move rule, we want people, we like to get some fighting spirit over here in St. Louis. So that's why we have this rule.
Typically, most tournaments here do have the 30 move rule. Occasionally, there are those where you don't see, and I mean, at that point, players can agree to a draw. You know, in theory, it's 7 moves. You know, so we're going to see a game being played, even if it's going to end quickly. But yeah, let's. How did this happen here?
All right. Well, let's see. So the game started in a pretty famous opening. We have the Queen's Gambit declined, and a Knight C3, a very popular structure for white and black. Basically, white is going to develop both of his knights. Then bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, castle e3. I'm sure that the guys just blitzed out those moves. Then we have a bishop exchange over here, rook c1. If I'm not mistaken, this is called the Lasker's variation. And now bishop d3, so basically they exchange all their pieces. I think white's going to castle, taking on c4. So at this point, white gets the advantage of those two central pawns on d4 and e3. So obviously white is a bit better in this kind of positions, but let's see. The question is, can we make it to a point? So bishop d3 was played, c5. And the idea for black is to fianchetto his bishop. Yeah, bishop went to b7. Take. Rook to c1. A nice triple of the rooks and the queen on the c file. Although there isn't much going on the c file, so a5 was played, a3. Then the players made some developing moves. Rook e8, h3, e5. Knight takes c5. Yeah, pretty equal position so far. White is trying to push, did try to push with his pawn to b4 to get this knight back. Knight to d7, rook c7. Okay, so here, as we know in chess, rooks are very strong on the 7th rank. That's what Alexander Epitop is doing. Queen takes on c7, and now knight to f6. Sacrificing the pawn on b6. Okay, so far it looks like black is a pawn up. So let's see what happened then. Knight to d5. And apparently here the knight is forking the queen and the pawn. Queen to b5. Knight takes on b4. So again we are on a material equality over here. And rook to b1, just attacking the knight on b4. I wonder if there are any other options for white to play here. I wonder if I can take here on this pawn on e5, and if the queen takes, maybe I can take on b4. So that might have been an option for white. I cannot see any other moves for black.
It seems really curious to me.
Yeah. So instead white played rook to b1 at this point. Then the knight went to c2. Well, maybe white's idea was somehow to trap the knight. If you can see at this moment, the knight can only move back to a3. So maybe that was a decision then that Alex Epitop made on the chessboard. Do I take on e5 and try to win this endgame? And yeah, and by the way, if we exchange the queens, 4 pawns against 3 pawns, it's probably going to be ending in a draw. Even though white has a pawn up, you know, lots of the rook endgames end in a draw, even with a pawn up. So in the game, he tried to restrict the knight with rook b1, knight c2, and then rook c1, knight a3 was played, queen to c5. Yeah, that's definitely a draw offer after white has played this move, queen to c5. A little bit surprising, to be honest. I think that white can still play on for some kind of an advantage here, maybe moving the queen to a5 or a4. I still don't know how white is going to bring, how black is going to bring his knight back. I mean, I'm just attacking the knight, and I want to play something like rook c3 and attack and just to take this knight. I'm very curious why did white play queen c3, but who knows? So basically, after the queen exchange, that's pretty much move number 31, and I get to a draw according to the rules.
Let's go take a nap or something.
Yeah, but that's maybe prepare for the next game.
Yeah, it's a half point buy with a little bit of play over the board. I know some people might get mad at me for saying something like that, but really, I mean, if you're feeling down after the first day, both players coming off losses here, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, that's true.
And Vitaly, I'm looking at what I perceive as the game of the day in Group A, and this is a funny-looking game. I'm talking about Grandmasters Ganguly and Onischuk. It's moved 29 real-time, and all of the pawns are still on the board. This looks kind of funny to me.
Yeah, it looks pretty interesting, especially with the pawn structure. You wonder how did the pawn got to e5 or to e6.
It's a little cramped right there.
Yeah, it's probably because black he captured on f6 and then captured on e6 twice. That would be my bet. I guess it's hard to decide whose pawn structure is better. It looks at first that white's pawn structure is a bit better because we have just one pawn chain, and that's something we discussed yesterday. Black does have this pawn on h6, which is kind of an isolated pawn, but it's not really a weakness right now. The question is, I mean, look at all those pawns in the center. I mean, maybe one day black is going to start pushing those pawns, and we'll see what happens. As far as I can see now, it's pretty equal. The position itself, there are probably going to be some exchanges. I think that black eventually will have to take this pawn on e5 and try to put his knight on e5. So right now it's white to move. Interesting. So maybe white can push. I mean, he has so many pawn moves here. He can try to play b5, c5, d5. Maybe even taking on e5. I think it's a pretty interesting game, but my bet would be that it would probably end in a draw. Let's see what kind of an opening they played. So it started with e4, e5, and we have the Goiko piano. Actually, this is the Goiko pianissimo. This variation is considered very fashionable nowadays. It used to be after e4, e5, the Rui Lopez. The Rui used to be the most fashionable one, but today the top chess players, they prefer to put the bishop on c7, on c4, excuse me. So let's see, c3, d6, a4. That is a move with a venom. So why do we move the pawn to a4 in the opening so early? That does not make much of a sense. But here's the thing. If black just going to castle here, now we can play b4. And it's almost time to resign for black.
Yeah, that bishop's a goner.
Yeah, bishop b6 and a5. So that's pretty much the idea. So after a4, black needed to defend, and some people like to play a6. Some people like to play this move pawn to a5. It's a matter of preference, depending on your style. So Alex Onischuk decided to play pawn to a6, castle, and bishop to a7. A very nice prophylactic move. Just in case, if white plays b4 one day, I mean, the bishop is going to go to a7 anyway. So rook to e1, castle h3, bishop e6, a quick development of the pieces. Yeah, so now white took on e6. He could also probably play something like knight bd2 is a little bit more popular in those stages. And then if the bishop takes on c4, I can probably take with the knight on c4. And it's a pretty equal position, playable for both sides. So on the other hand, bishop took on e6 and pawn takes on e6. Now for our viewers today, just to let you know, it looks like black has those double pawns on e6 and e5, which we might think might be bad, very bad pawns. But on the other hand, this pawn on e6 it will be supporting the advance of the d5 pawn. So not right now, because the e5 pawn will be weak, but at some point black has some ideas to push d5, and if white takes on d5, we can bring out e pawn. And in addition, black gets the f file. So if you can see that, I really like the dynamics of black pieces actually, because the rook on f8 and the bishop on a7, just looking on this pawn on f2, and he's not too far. So we just need to move those two knights. So let's see what happens. So bishop e3. This move makes sense, as we said, that bishop on a7 is pretty dangerous sometimes. Bishop takes, and here...
Vitaly, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Group B, Andrei Gorovets has defeated Jack Stambuliak, so we'll be talking to Andrei Gorovets here in just a few moments. Just wanted to step in and let you know.
All right, perfect, yes. Our first decisive result for the day.
Yes, indeed, the first one, yeah, and the only result thus far in Group B.
How many moves did they make?
That's a good question. 27 moves.
You see, less than 30, yes, no draws.
You are allowed to defeat your opponent inside of 30 moves.
Yeah.
See, that's how it works. Just not draw.
Good for them, yeah, good for Andre. Yeah, so as you can see, so in this game, white decided to take with the rook, not with the pawn, just a different approach, queen d7. Then we have a few knight maneuvers. Knight to c4, rook a e8. Basically, white got a little bit more space, but black has some chances on the king side. Knight f4 is a very nice outpost for the knight. Looking over the g2 pawn, the h3 pawn, and d3. Rook to d2, queen to g2, queen to g6, knight to e1. I can feel the pressure that white might had here in the position. Knight d7, but luckily rook coming to g3 and defending the king. Queen f7, knight e3. We have a few moves in, and we have a few exchanges. We got the queen exchanges. Aha! And this is how we got this pawn structure. Yeah, it's very interesting because black can take on f6 with the rook if he wanted to, but he decided to take with a pawn. I wonder what would Sam Shankland would say about this pawn structure, right?
Yeah, we haven't seen the book yet.
Yeah.
Or we've seen the book, we haven't read the book.
So d4 was played, knight back to g6. It looks to me like, hey, so far black just played this move, king to f7. We have Surya with 20 minutes and Alexander with 16, so it's very equal on time, very equal on the material and balance. So, yeah, I think we might see another draw here.
It looks like it could be. Vitaly, another game that catches my eye in Group B that I was really looking at was Akshat Chandra's game against Aaron Grabinski. It looks like Akshat may be for choice here.
All right, let's look at the game. Looks like Aaron Grabinski is providing us some action, right?
Right.
Alrighty, so let's see at the moment, what do we have here? They just finished move number 40. Actually, white made move number 40. Black.
You just saw the time jump right there.
Right.
There it goes.
So, so both of them just played move number 40. So what do we have here? Well, looks like white is just a pawn up. White also has this very powerful rook on a5, which overlooks the on the a6 pawn and the g5 pawn. And to be honest, so if it's white to move, actually, so king g1. Let me refresh my page real quick. Looks like both of them made a move. Right. So, rook c1 was played. Black needs to pin this bishop. King f2, and then rook c2 check. Now the problem is that those checks actually help white, because now we're in an endgame, and we know that in the endgame we have a very strong piece, which is the king. We are taught in the beginning, as beginners, that we are supposed to, protect the king, keep him in the castle, in home. But now, when the queens are off the board, most of the pieces are off the board, then we begin our king march. So it looks like the king will probably gonna go to either g3 or e3. If it would be up to me, I would just start marching the king just over there, and eventually get this pawn on a6. So for example, king to e3. And to be honest, I don't like Aaron's odds in here. It looks like actually Chandra is doing pretty well, but we don't want to jinx it, right?
Right, yeah. We're not good at predictions
Yes.
With Aaron Grabinski. Well, you mentioned the kings in the endgame. In fact, in most endgames, it seems the kings are really good attackers, and it's actually necessary. If you leave your king at home trying to protect him, you're going to get back rank mated.
Exactly, yeah.
So, it's an interesting nuance of the game.
Oh, yeah, yeah, definitely. So we are definitely going to keep an eye on this game. Where Aaron again, he has on his side, he has the time advantage, so an hour and 15 minutes versus 30 minutes. But I think that the idea for white is pretty obvious here. I'm just going to move my king, and how are you even going to defend this pawn? This pawn on a6 is gone. That's a goner. I mean, and then white is going to have two protected pass pawns, and yeah, so that does not look good for Aaron.
It looks really good for Chandra.
Right.
That's for sure.
Okay, so maybe we can look at some other games. Let's see some other games who got finished. We said we are going to discuss this game. Andrei Gorovets versus Evgeny Steinbulak. Let's see what happened in the game. d4, c4, e6. By the way, pretty good pretty good comeback for Andre because he lost yesterday.
Yes, he did.
Nice.
Right, he was sitting at the bottom against Akshat.
Right.
He lost against Akshat, so he's alone at the bottom right now, but very early on.
So again, we don't want to jinx it, but if Akshat wins, he's going to be still on the top, right?
Yes. Do we have a $64,000 Fisher Prize? You go a whole thing undefeated.
Yeah.
You know, we don't, by the way, but yeah, no, that's superhuman.
So it looks like it started with a type of a Catalan defense, very popular. Fianchetto in the bishop on g2, castle, knight c6. So in those kind of positions, as you can see, white sacrifices a pawn on c4, but in return, white gets the center. And many times he pushes the pawn to e4 as he did the next move. And well, this is what we call a positional advantage, a little bit, a positional sacrifice. So white has those beautiful pawns on e4 and d4. Black, in return, has the pawn on c4, is a pawn up, but he has some troubles in developing his pieces. I mean, this bishop on c8 might find some trouble to find a spot for himself. So let's see what happened in the game. Knight a5, okay. Bishop to e3, rook to b8, queen e2, b5. Okay, so defending this pawn on c4. So far so good. It looks pretty good for black. This move a6. I wonder if black could have just played here bishop to b7. So I just want to finish my development, and obviously white cannot take on b5 because he's going to lose the e4 pawn. So if white is losing the central pawn, that's going to be pretty good for black. There's no more advantage for white.
I'd like to get Gorovitz's input on this game, and especially this point. Let's hold off on that because I understand we are going to have him here shortly.
All right.
And while we can, since our time is very near and dear and limited to us, let's take a look at another game in the interim.
Let's look at Malkhasian versus Viktor Michalevsky.
Michalevsky and Kachian. Okay.
Oh, what is going on the board? The king is on a3. Okay. I guess the king had to run away. By the way, we are in move number 28, and look at the time that Victor has. He has less than 2 minutes, a minute and 50 seconds. So let's see what's going on here. So white has a rook against a bishop and a pawn, but this pawn is a passed pawn, so materially speaking, white is supposed to be better. His queen on e5 is very strong. The rook on d7 looks pretty good. My guess is that the king had to escape to a3 because of the check on g2, and now white does not want to leave his king on a1. That's a pretty strange position where the king is feels safer on a3.
It is visually a little bit odd.
Right. The king is before the pawns, not behind the pawns. But what to do? I mean, we have 55 seconds, 53 seconds. I mean, Victor needs to make a move. Did we ever had anybody ever lose on time? I don't think so. Usually,
it's really tough to, right, in these situations. One thing to keep in mind, these players are only on move 29. They're not going to get any bonus time for another 10 moves.
Right.
40 moves, that extra half hour kicks in on both clocks. So Michalevsky he's maybe sweating it out a little bit right here.
Oh, yeah, definitely. So let's see, what can he do? What is he thinking? Well, he probably needs to defend the rook, but where to move the rook? So let's try to move the rook somewhere. Rook to e1. And what is the problem? I wonder if black can play this move, rook to f2, and attack the a2 pawn. Maybe that is what he is calculating, where to move the rook, because rook f2 is coming, and it's not so easy for for white to defend. I mean, I'll probably have to play something like rook a1 next. So why did we play rook e1 and then rook a1? Interesting. So let's refresh the position here. What was played in the game? And in the game, white played rook to d1. I have a feeling that white wants to sacrifice the rook for the bishop. This bishop is just too strong, especially to get over the pawn. So I think that is what he's thinking about, especially when he doesn't have so much time. So what about this move rook c7?
Looks promising.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably a mate in 2, right? So rook takes a2 is coming, king b4, and we have a5. That would be a pretty nice mate, almost a mate. Well, white has to sack his queen, and then pawn
true,
takes.
yeah. Queen takes a5. Okay.
Exactly, but still,
Still not good for white.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure what. Maybe we are missing something else. So what else can black do here? But yeah, I would just play rook f2. And the problem is that even if I take on d3 here, well, he's gonna take on a2 and do the same thing. Take king b4. Okay, well now it's not a mate because king b5. Would we consider this as an endgame now? And the king is pretty strong?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah, might be.
Definitely an endgame.
Yeah, it actually looks like white is going to get the upper hand because it takes the black king will be very, very weak in this position. So I see some moves that were played. Let's refresh the board. And Melik played queen g4. Queen g4 was played, and the queen is attacking the rook here on d1. So that makes some sense. Yeah, and again, Victor is in time trouble. He needs to figure out how to respond. Not so easy. So will he take on d3 or not? That is a good question. What else can he do? Well, actually, also his rook on d7 is being attacked. So what can white do here? And let's see. So what can white do here? Maybe just to take on d3 and probably just to sacrifice. Maybe we have some kind of an intermediate check on d8. Okay, so we are going to get back to this game, but right now we have Andrei Gorovets with us today. So thank you for joining us. Congratulations on your win today.
Thank you.
We were just discussing that you will only played 27 moves.
Yeah.
Quite impressive, right? Quite a quick win. We've seen some other players make some draws after 30 moves. So 27 moves, I assume you came prepared for the game.
Partly I was prepared, yeah, but then I mean it was very complicated and I bluffed a little bit, so.
Okay, let's go over the game. Maybe you can. So it was a Catalan, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah, Catalan or Nimzo Indian.
Yeah. Started as a Nimzo and kind of transposed.
Yeah, G3.
So this is pretty much old theory after D5,
theory.
and he decided to go back with the bishop.
Can I tell something about
Yeah,
this
sure.
one? Yeah, you know, so personally for me the idea of this opening is like I was watching Peter Swidler's Grunfeld's DVD, and then I mean it looks so nice for black sacrificing all these pawns, And then I realized that it's gonna be even better for white if you're trying to do this setup. So I considered this as just a reversed Grunfeld.
Right.
So that's the idea.
Would they move up?
Yeah, move up here.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
nice idea.
Yeah, and also there was like an inspirational game played by some blues against you, Ganguly from China, just a year ago. So yeah, and we were following that game.
Okay.
In black.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it looks like you guys both knew the line.
Yeah,
Castle. So now you basically sacrifice the pawn, but you
Yeah.
get those e4 pawns and d4 pawns pretty strong. And now knight e5.
This is all theory.
Right, rook b8. There was one moment here after b5, rook a d1. Maybe this move a6 was not so necessary. Could he maybe play just bishop b7 and
Yeah, probably.
and so because if you take on b5, then
Yeah,
e4
it's
is
not
falling.
good for me. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was wondering. Maybe he just needs to keep development.
Yeah.
Probably you have like
that's-
knight e5 or something.
Knight e5 or maybe even d5. d5 you take.
Oh,
I will
d5.
play e5.
Mm.
Something interesting to investigate.
Yeah, definitely. The rook is aligned with the queen.
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
Something's gonna happen here. Okay.
Yeah, or maybe knight e5, the standard idea, and maybe what we did though.
Nice. Okay, so he
Yeah.
played
Yeah, he
a6,
played a6.
and now you played
Knight
knight
e5.
e5.
Then what did I do? G4.
G4.
That was
wow.
the idea.
Very nice.
G4,
Taking some more space on the king side.
yeah.
Very nice. Okay. Were you thinking about it on
No,
the board?
I mean, he surprised me actually because he didn't play Nimza Indian so often, and so I forgot a lot of things here, but I knew a little bit.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
yeah,
So G4, knight to B3. So the knight has to go to B3, but not doing that much, too much of a trouble for us.
So G5.
Knight D7.
I see computer
F4.
doesn't like it maybe, but
Yeah, I mean F4 looks
It's
good to
okay.
me. Yeah, because if it takes, then you can always take back. Yeah,
yeah.
looks pretty
Okay.
good. Queen E8. So far very solid. And then we saw this rook lift.
Yeah.
To
I
F6,
mean, what
to
else?
H6.
That's my
Yeah, so
That's
the
my
idea
plan.
was probably rook H3, right? And
rook
queen.
H3 and queen H5, something like this. Yeah.
Very interesting. And then rook D8 was played.
Mhm.
Rook H3. And
So
now
I think
G6.
that's a good move.
So preventing queen H5.
Yeah, queen H5. Mhm.
Can he play? And if he tries to play F6,
F6, then GF and queen G4, check at least. I think.
right?
Take queen G4.
And then the E6 pawn is also
Yeah.
falling sometimes. Okay.
This way.
Okay. So G6 and Rook H6.
Rook
wow.
H6 because I felt that I need to stop H5 for black because sometimes, let's imagine a move ago, my queen comes to H4, let's say, right? He would play H5, right? And my counterplay is
And then H5.
Yeah, H5. Yeah.
And he can't take He can't take en passant, but then your pawn is pinned.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Interesting idea.
Yeah, so that was his idea. So I played Rook H6.
Okay, so now you're switching sides between the rook and the queen.
Yeah. Plus, maybe I could even triple up in some variations, like bring like Rook F1, Rook F3, Rook H3.
Wow, this would be amazing. And then queen to H4.
Yeah.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah. But yeah, still, I'm thinking that black has a lot of defensive resources, and objectively, black is better.
Yeah, he played queen c6, and maybe it was time for him to start exchanging pieces.
Yeah,
maybe.
but he didn't want to take on d1 because then knight d1 and knight goes f2 and g4 and f6. It's maybe a little bit unpleasant.
I see.
Could be.
Very interesting. It's kind of a race, like who is going to mate who first. You know,
Yeah,
you're on the king side and
yeah.
he's on the queen side.
However, it looks like he succeeded more on the queen side and center than I succeeded on the king side. But
Yeah.
still.
very interesting. Okay, so in the game, he played Queen C6 and Knight to D5.
That was the moment.
Wow.
Yeah. I think I have to play Knight D5 because other things just don't work.
So if you try to play Rook F1,
he has Rook D3.
Oh, okay.
And even in some lines, Rook takes E3.
Right.
His idea.
To take and then Bishop C5.
Bishop C5. Or just immediately Bishop C5. So it doesn't really work.
Okay.
Yeah. So I decided to play Knight D5 here. He has to take. I take. Queen D7. And yeah, the crucial moment here that I found Queen E1. This is a very important move because if Queen F2, then he has Queen G4, let's say, and yeah, kind of.
Yeah, can't continue
doesn't
anymore.
work for White here
Because your Rook is hanging.
Rook, and next he will take on D5. So.
Yeah, and then the Rook on H6 looks very awkward. If you exchange the queens.
Yeah. So yeah, Queen E1. I played Queen E1.
And I played King G7. Okay, this move, very creative. So he's trying to bring his Rook to H8.
Because, I mean, what else? Otherwise I would play Queen H4. Right, that's my idea. Or Bishop H3 first, Queen H4, so.
Interesting. Okay, so King G7. And now you decide to play Rook, Bishop H3 first.
Yeah, and go for F5. So F5, yeah.
So if Queen H4, then just Rook H8. And he didn't want to bring his Rook.
Yeah, and actually here, Rook after F5, he should have played Rook H4, Rook H8. That's his only move, I think. Rook H8.
Right, but it's very difficult to make, right? Because you're giving him back the piece.
Yeah. He has to give up the piece, but
at least he has some chances.
This is the basic concept of defense. You know, sometimes you give up your extra material.
Yeah, definitely. So he played instead G takes F5.
Yeah, and that's a blunder. Rook H7.
Rook H7. Maybe he didn't see. Maybe he was expecting Bishop takes F5. Is it the same thing?
Actually, Bishop still wins, and Queen H4 would be winning too.
Right.
No, he played a big mistake.
Looks like the king was left alone there on G7.
Yeah. And also there's a big cluster of pieces, and the king cannot escape.
So check first.
Yeah.
And
check, and it was for me very easy to find because it reminds me of the famous game Lasker against someone, you know, double bishop sacrifice kind of looks similar.
Yeah, so if the king escapes someone, then just bishop takes F5 and checkmate on H7. Wow, so very good game.
So I got lucky.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, you're prepared, so and you risked as well. And so good for you. I think it's a very nice comeback, right, after yesterday's not such a good game.
Yesterday my opponent played brilliantly, actually. Very well. He was very well prepared, and he deserved his win.
Nice. How are you enjoying your time in St. Louis? You're not from St. Louis, right?
No. I mean, it's always good here, so...
Welcome. So good luck. Thank you for joining us, and good luck for the rest of the games.
Thank you. Bye.
And we are going to go into a short commercial break. See you after.
A question on Twitter from Damas. I should not have pronounced that. That was a bit of a trap, yeah?
For those of you who are new to chess, it might look like ba3 is an illegal move here, because white advances pawn 2 squares, not 1. But it's a little something we call en passant. And you can do that, but you have to do it instantly. You can't wait for a move, like let's say play king e7, king g2, and now try, because I couldn't do it.
I'm sorry. This is too funny for words.
This is a software glitch? I'm pretty sure there's not a lot.
Lawrence. Hello, Lawrence. Yeah, I'll play 4 against Lawrence. And now he's going to play something against me which we discussed at length during the course of my stay. Yeah, he told me this is excellent. D5, this was what I was kind of hoping for, because now I think e5 is quite strong. No, Lawrence, this is not how chess works. Sadly, it would be much, much more fun if chess actually worked like this. But I don't think it does. Or maybe it does. Well, that's me regretting what I just said. How did I get from there to here is a little bit beyond me. And what's worse, I will never hear the end of it. My quality of life has just gone downhill tremendously because I'm actually sharing the office with the guy.
You could fly to Venice or Paris or even Copenhagen. You could fly all over the world. But why? When you could just come to St. Louis. Your trip begins at ExploreSt.Louis.com.
Hi, I'm Mike Matheny. Whether you play chess for fun or want to boost your child's academic performance, come visit the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis, right here in the chess capital of the U.S. From a welcoming, diverse environment to a scholastic outreach program, now in over 100 schools, our center, across from the World Chess Hall of Fame in the Central West End, has it all. So whether you've played for years or never before, we invite you to experience all chess has to offer.
Hello, chess fans, and welcome back to live round coverage of the second round for the 2018 Spring Chess Classic. I'm here with a special guest. My name is Ben Simon, joined by Senior Tournament Director and Chess Scholastic Coordinator, Richard W. Pointer. That's a lot of titles there, Richard.
Yes, I'm very proud of the Senior Tournament Director title that I just achieved.
Yeah.
Took a very long time.
So what does that consist of? You just became a Senior Tournament Director. What does that consist of?
So the U.S. Chess Federation has a couple requirements. Basically, they have a testing requirement, which is not too difficult, but you do have to pass with an 80%, so you can fail pretty easily. And then you also have to direct 10 tournaments with about 100 players each. So it can be easy depending on where you live, but for us, oftentimes we don't get that many players in our tournaments, so because of space restrictions. So finally got there. Took about 2.5 years, so pretty long time.
So you deal with a lot of scholastic tournaments, the kids, and we all know that the kids invent the craziest chess disputes ever. I suppose this helps your situation.
Well, it's interesting. The test has some questions on it that relate to computers playing in chess tournaments, or players having a foul odor. But unfortunately, there's not a lot of questions.
Important.
Not a lot of questions about scholastic tournaments. Which, if I were recommending, I think they should ask more questions like that, because it's useful. Actually, kids, they play games outside and off the board as well. So you have to be ready to. For all situations in scholastic tournaments.
Of course. And this year we're looking forward to, on the grand stage, the Grand Chess Tour, the very best in the world playing in their own circuit, and you get points for placing high, and you still get something for placing low, and then at the end there's a small little tournament, 4 players, a knockout, and then the winner is the Grand Chess Tour champion. Scholastics has something similar here in St. Louis. Tell us about the Scholastic Grand Prix.
So, related to our monthly chess tournaments that we host for Scholastics, is the Grand Prix. So, players can come and play and accumulate points towards a similar type tournament at the end of the season. So, you're given basically points for winning, but also just attending a tournament. So, kind of to drive repeat players to come.
Consistency.
Yeah, exactly. So we found that it's another way for kids to compete and show their love of chess.
Right. What's the feedback like from the kids and the parents?
I'm not sure the kids really know that it's going on.
But I don't know that I would if I was playing.
I mean,
honestly.
I think that might be an exaggeration, but they really care about their chess game, so that's the most important result. The parents love it because it gives them something else to track of their child's success.
It's not really any different from you might see a coach with a Little League baseball game. The parents are really into it.
Right.
And the kids are like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
The parents might be more into it.
Yeah. So it's really, it's actually a whole lot of work as well because you have to track, if we have last tournament we had 241 players show up. So they all get registered in this Grand Prix whether or not they ever show up again. So as you keep doing that, you add more and more players to track and make sure you get their points correct and stuff like that.
I want to bring up a tournament that's I don't think was a part of the Grand Prix, but there's always crazy, awesome stuff happening here in St. Louis. And on the Scholastic level, I know that there's a lot of partnerships that give us tournaments like the one at the Moto Museum last week. I think it was last week, right?
Right, it was. So I think it might have been 2 weeks ago, but basically we're in the St. Louis Public Schools here in St. Louis, and there's about 70 total schools, but we're in about 35. And we give chess programming and chess lessons to students in those schools. And we had our first district-wide chess tournament for the St. Louis Public Schools at the Moto Museum, which is a motorcycle museum here in St. Louis, near St. Louis University.
It's really cool.
It is very cool. The venue was great. It's kind of interesting because I'm not sure the kids had enough time to actually look at the motorcycles, but,
So they just played on the showroom floor, right? They just moved all the motorcycles out of there?
Yeah, I'm not really sure what the venue was before we showed up. It was already had tables, but yeah, it was really cool, actually. The venue would be a great space for anything, but for a chess tournament, it's kind of unique, I think.
Well, Richard, we know that you're always fighting the good fight with the chess in schools here in St. Louis, making Scholastic programming a regular thing, something that the schools feel like they really should have to improve their kids' progress in schools. Anything else coming down the pike? Anything you want to add?
Well, summer's coming, so that's great for Scholastics. We're going to have a whole bunch of chess camps. Most of them are going to be off-site. We're not really sure quite yet where we're going to host them, but stay tuned. Go to stlouischessclub.org if you want to find out more.
Very nice. Richard, as always, thank you for joining me. Maybe we'll have you on every tournament or something.
That'd be great. I love it.
All right. We'll be right back with more analysis of round 2. The games are wrapping up here in St. Louis for the Spring Chess Classic.
A moment comes in chess when you need to test yourself at a different level. Chess 24 Premium offers the tools that you need to reach your maximum potential. From hundreds of interactive video lessons to becoming part of the Chess 24 community. You can analyze with friends or coach your students live. You get 24/7 coverage of chess news and events, access to premium analysis and commentary, and the chance to interact with grandmasters and other top players and coaches. Get advice from the best and even challenge them to a battle. Be the best chess player you can be. It's time to level up your game with Chess 24 Premium membership.
And just like that, we're back here in St. Louis for the 2018 Spring Chess Classic. This is live round 2 coverage. I'm Ben Simon.
And I'm International Master Vitaly Neimer.
And during our interview with Richard W. Pointer, I understand we did have a result, Vitaly.
Oh, yes. So we had one draw in Section A. Let's look at that draw between Jeffrey Zhang and Darius Spirits. Yeah, it looks pretty equal. We have rook endgames with the bishops and knight to each. It looks like white could have taken, well, cannot take on c4 because of rook to d1 check. So he needs to probably move his king, and then black gets the a pawn after rook b2. Yeah, so we have another draw, which probably keeps Jeffrey in the lead, as far as I remember, with 1.5.
Right. Yeah, he's leading live by a half point, 1.5 above the field.
Yeah. So some draws, we have only one decisive game today so far. Let's look at some other games. Let's see what's going on.
Chandra and Grabinski. We're in an endgame right there, and it looks like Chandra's doing pretty well against the national master.
Yeah, so as we said, white did get that a6 pawn, and we are in an endgame. White has 2 pawns up. I do not know how can black even try to play for a draw. I mean, obviously black is trying to play something like king g6, king f5, and pawn to g6. But I think that white will not allow that. White played rook to b8. And now it is Aaron's move. Now look at Aaron's time though. He has an hour more. Mm-hmm. If only an hour would give you, if you can only exchange an hour for a few pieces. But so rook to b8 was played, and now basically white needs to start and push his pawns. b4, b5, a4, a5. And I'm not so sure if black has any chance here. Again, don't want to jinx it, but it looks pretty good for white.
Absolutely, it does. Chandra definitely in the driver's seat here. Another game that's piquing my interest in the same section, Vitaly, is Michalik and Kachian. There's some moves rapidly coming across the board. Black has formed a battery on that second rank.
Right. So as we said, this white had to make some tough decisions. Let's see where we left it. We left it after queen to g2. We left it in this position, and white did play queen. Black did play queen g4, forking the 2 rooks. Check. King h7. Queen takes on a7. So the idea is that black cannot take the rook on d1 because there would be some kind of a checkmate after rook g7, rook h7, and queen g7. So black played rook to f5 with the idea of rook coming to a5 and forking the queen and the king. We have b4 was played to defend against this threat. Rook to f2. Okay, probably the idea would be something like bishop to c4. And in this case, black wants to take on a2 with a checkmate. So let's see how Victor defended with the queen to c7 to protect the c4 square. We had rook to g2. Okay, that's a bit. I like this move because now the rook is defending the g7 pawn, and it's freeing up the queen on g4 because previously black could not move the queen from g4. So she's free to do whatever she wants to. Rook to e5, f to e1, I'm sorry. Queen to h4, attacking the rook, and rook takes on d3. Okay, so this is pretty much what we predicted. White will sacrifice in the end one of his rooks for the d3 bishop, just to untangle himself. And now he played queen f2. Okay, interesting. Look at that. He can take on d3. He can take the rook on e1, but he prefers to play queen f2. That's a pretty bold decision.
The engine was going crazy for taking on e1, by the way.
Oh, okay. So let's see. Yeah, I would look at all of those moves. Queen takes e1. So probably the rook needs to go somewhere. Let's say the rook goes back to d7. And now we have queen c1 check. We can start hunting the king down, or maybe black can play this move b5 and basically trapping the king here. And I don't see how white can defend from the mate on c1 and then queen b2 checkmate. That is a pretty interesting point, and I think that Melik maybe missed this. Maybe it was the miss of his game. But let's see what happens. So he played queen f2. The threat is a mate on a2. Queen to c4. All right, that's a good move. And now it is still black to move. If you can see that, actually, I think we have a few other moves that were played. Yes. So queen takes e1 and rook to d8 was played. So if you see here, we have 1 minute for each player. So let's stay tuned. Rook d8. The threat is.
And there's still just three moves from time control, so they're going to make it, but it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, going to be very close. If I would be black, I would maybe try to give a few checks. This is one of the techniques we have in such time pressure, just to repeat some moves and to gain time on the clock. Well, the first check that comes into mind is queen c1. So I wonder if he's just going to play this move queen c1 and then queen c2 check. And I think it was actually played in the game. So queen c1, king a4, and queen c2. We are at move number 38, so just 2 more moves to the time control, and the king went to b5. Oh, wow. And I think we actually discussed almost this position before, when the king goes to b5, and we said that's a pretty strong endgame. That's what I call king play.
Yeah.
So now it's interesting. So let's see, we have 4 pawns to each side, but it seems to me that if at some point white will manage to exchange the queens, then this king on b5 is going to be the ace. He's going to just swap this pawn b6 from the board and defend his pawns to a queen. This pawn on e4, although it's a passed pawn for black and he wants to promote, it is going to be very, very easy for white to stop it with rook to e8. So yeah, so I think that white found a safe haven for his king on b5. Wow, what a turn of events. I mean, black was literally mating white, and suddenly it just slipped from his hands. So let's see what happened in the game. Black checked again on g5. Again, Melik had to make a decision in 30 seconds. That's a very difficult decision. So he tries to check, and I wonder if Victor is going to take this pawn on b6 or if he's going to go somewhere else. My guess would be that he's just going to take on b6, because if I go to a6 or c6, then black can follow with queen a4, some more annoying checks. So yeah, I wonder if I can just snap this board off the board. King takes on b6. And I think that it was played. Black played queen f2 check and king to b7. Wow. Can you promote the queen? Is he planning to promote the queen? The king, I'm sorry.
We'll have to check the rule book on that.
I know, yes. Maybe if the king comes to the back rank, then he gets some extra superpowers.
Right. Well, as you can see, the players have made time control.
Right, so both of the players made move number 40, and this is when they get 30 minutes extra on the clock. And as you can see, usually what happens is they usually stand up just to stretch their feet, wipe that sweat
off their brows. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, 10 moves in what, like 2 minutes or something like that. It's pretty exhausting. So let's see what was played. So right now it's Melik here. There are no more checks. That's it. He he has exhausted all of his checks in the position. I mean, there is a queen f7 check, but this square is defended by the by the white queen. And what else can he do? Let's think about this. Well, the problem for black, if he's trying to play e3, maybe white can start hunting his king. Queen g6, queen g8, king g6. Maybe check on d6. But then maybe the black king is getting activated. So I doubt if white wants to do that. Very interesting position. So how should white play after e3? Probably rook e8. We need to stop this this criminal on e3. And now black cannot play pawn to e2 because it's just going to get taken. Well, here's the thing. Suddenly, after e3, black can check the white king on this diagonal. He can do it by playing queen f3 or queen g2. But what's the problem in with this move, queen f3? Well, the problem is that white has a very strong defense that allows him to exchange the queens by playing queen e4. And again, if we get to such an endgame, this rook is going to easily stop this pawn, probably even take it. And white has 3 passers. That's a monster. That's
can't deal with that.
Yeah, yeah. That's even this. We can't even jinx.
No. I'm not superstitious to begin with, but
yeah,
that's not happening.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the game continues, and I think they.
Yeah, the Israeli Michalevsky is doing very well. And I have to tell you, Wonder Liang and Alexander Fear, the Brazilian, have drawn their game. So that's yet another draw. That's in Group B. Group B is looking a little more dynamic than A today. We might end up with all draws in Group A. Let's see, I'm looking at Chandra and Grabinski, and yeah, this one is looking like a wrap here.
Oh yeah, look at that. How did black allow the white king to come to g5? What happened here? So we left here, rook b8 was played, rook c3, a4, now g4. Oh wow, I don't really like that. It releases the white king. I think that the correct plan was somehow to, well, it's hard to point out what was the correct move here for black, but I was thinking about king g6 and somehow bringing the king to f5 with the idea such as taking the pawn on e5 or playing g4. That would be an interesting counterplay, but instead g4 really is not a threat because king h4. Now I played rook c2. What if he would? I wonder why he did not want to take on f3. Take, rook takes. King takes here. Check. Well, even if he checks, then king g4. And again, if I get this pawn on f4, the game is going to be over. But maybe I can play something like rook a3. And then I assume white has a few options. Well, if I try to play a5, maybe now this pawn on f3 might become dangerous. But also white can probably just play king g4 here and give up this pawn, and those 2 passers will definitely win the game. So let's see what happened in the game itself. Aaron played rook c2, and now king g5. Interesting. Now the idea is actually sometimes white has some ideas to checkmate black with the rook b7 and coming to king f6. It's just a simple checkmate with a king and a rook, and then just checking on the back rank. So I think we have a few moves played here. Let's flash the board. So we had king g5, rook g2, king takes f4, rook to f3, a5, rook takes f3, and it is Akshat's move right now. Well, the king will probably go back to g5, and the question is, will Aaron get some counterplay? Will he have some chance? He can take this pawn on e5, but I wonder if I can just play a6 and a7 and a8. There's really no way for me to stop that pawn. Yeah, so right now we are in this position. Also, white can play king e4. I mean, really, those two passers just unstoppable. So, for example, king e4, rook a3. Lots of options. Usually I can just swing my rook to b6 and maybe play something like a6 and b5. But I wonder if I can also play something like rook h8 and just take this other pawn. Yeah, if I would be white, I would just play king g5. I like this move, king g5, just to keep the pressure on those pawns. If I can take those two guys, or even just one of them, black won't have any option to get a passed pawn. In that case, those two passers, protected passers, that's pretty much a winning situation. All right, well, I guess we're going to get back to this position, but it looks like actually it's doing pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. He's doing great. He'd have to really work to lose this one. Just want to let you know, a draw in Group B, JJ Ali Marandi and international, pardon me now, Grandmaster Priyadarshini Kanapan, they have reached a drawn position. The game is over.
Let's see who else is left, if we have any kind of interesting positions here. The game of the day, Alexander Onischuk is playing against Surya Ganguly. As we said, that pawn structure, if you remember, white had all his pawns on the 4th rank. So we saw a few exchanges. Right now it's looking pretty equal. White is probably slightly better just because of his rook on b7, cutting off the king, but I cannot see any clear plan for white. Probably just bring the king to g3, then maybe pawn to f3, maybe somehow bring the king somewhere. The problem is that if I start marching the king to this side, there is always rook to a3 check. And also I suspect that black is going to push d5 next move. I wonder if he can do it immediately. If d5, pawn takes, knight takes on d5, looking pretty equal. White can't put his knight on f5. That's a beautiful knight on f5, I gotta say. But I'm gonna put my knight on f4. It's a beauty contest between the knights.
That's a new one.
So yeah, it depends, because if this knight takes h6, well, my rook is gonna come here and gonna take on h3. Yeah, I feel like it's gonna end in a draw. Although they did pass the time at the 40 moves, so they have half an hour each. I think this game is gonna is going to go for a while.
And what about Bruzon versus Edouard? Cuba versus France. We haven't looked at that game at all, I believe, yet in Group A.
Interesting match, Cuba versus France. Let's see. Okay, so what do we have here? So yeah, so all the players passed move number 40. Everybody got the extra time. As far as I can see right now, Black has a pawn up, but Black's king is tied up on the back rank because the rook on a7 is doing such a good job. And as we said, it's pretty much like White is playing with a piece up because of his king. So the king can come to e4 and create much damage. That is what I think that White's plan is. King e4, maybe just to keep the king on d4. I'm not even sure who I would prefer here, to be playing Black or to be playing White, because yeah, Black is a pawn up, but all those pawns on g5, d6, a5 look like weaknesses to me, and I'm not sure what is Black's plan. Maybe it's time to offer a draw, or just play rook to d2, and maybe just start those crazy exchanges. Rook to a5, rook here, rook to g5, rook here, rook to b5, and yeah, I mean this is just the king comes out, and this should probably end in a draw. Let's see what did they have in the opening. They had a Sicilian in the opening. G6. By the way, this system has a few names. Some people call it the hyper accelerated dragon, very fast dragon, and some people call it the sniper.
I've never heard the sniper.
Oh yeah, the sniper. Okay. So because the bishop comes here very fast to g7. So sometimes bishop can come to g7, even sacrificing this pawn on c5, because Black can recapture this pawn on c5. But in the game, Black took immediately, knight c6, and c4, bishop to g7, attacking the knight, bishop to e3. That is pretty much all theory. This is what we call the Marozzi bind, when White has those two pawns on e4 and c4. The advantage for White, so sometimes White puts the pawn on c4, sometimes he leaves the pawn on c2. So what is the difference? Well, in many lines, Black tries to get counterplay by playing this move d5 or b5, right? a6, b5, or e6, d5. Now, when White puts the pawn on c4, though, that's going to be extremely difficult for Black to play one of those moves. So let's see what happened. Okay, knight to g4. That's a typical maneuver. Queen takes g4. The queen goes back to d1, and now e5. Wow. e5. That is actually a move that I have never seen before. But I'm not a sniper.
No, yeah, we're not experts in this.
Not a sniper, not a sniper player. But e5 looks a little bit of strange. Yes, Black does get this knight on d4, but first of all, e5 looks a bit suspicious to put the pawn here just in front of the bishop. I don't like to, block up my sniper on g7. But also, Black gives away this square on d5. So let's see what happened. Everyone castled, everyone developed their pieces. Knight to d5. Yeah, looks like in this game we have the battle between the knights. Which knight looks better? Okay, so finally Black decides to exchange this knight, playing f5. White also takes the knight. We have a few exchanges here. White got a pawn up, actually. So White has a few ideas, but Black does have the initiative with queen to g4. Rook e1, queen to h4. So now Black has some really serious threats on h2. g3 was played. Bishop takes g3. Wow.
Is that sound?
Yeah. Yeah, because I cannot take with the h pawn because of the pin, and if I take with the f pawn, probably that's what happened in the game. The rook takes f1. I think that this was White's blunder. That's probably White forgot about this move. Bishop takes g3. Otherwise, he could have played h3.
I'm sorry. If g3, bishop takes g3, what's the deal? Why can't f take g3?
Well, that is actually what happened in the game. F takes g3, and then rook takes on f1, check. Rook takes f1, and now the bishop on e4.
Oh, the bishop hangs. Okay.
Right. So I think that I think that Bruzon probably miscalculated this variation. Let's go back. So how could he have improved?
Akshat Chandra has just defeated Aaron Grabinski.
All right.
Grabinski has called it a day.
Yes. So
the result we did expect.
Yeah. So Akshat is leading, right? Right now.
He is by a full point in the live standings. Now, we still have one more game going in Group E, Michalevsky and Kachian. That game is, like we last looked at it, pretty good for Michalevsky. And we have the two games that look very even in Group A, Ganguly, Onischuk, and Bruzon, Edouard. So these games will go beyond our broadcast in Group A.
Yeah, so Akshat has 2 out of 2, right?
He's 2 for 2.
Wow,
yeah,
he's
coming back with some fury. You know, after the last event he played here in St. Louis, it was not his best showing, and now he knows what he can do.
Yeah.
You know, and if you talk to him, he's a very well-spoken young man. He's always very friendly, and he's very upbeat. And he knows, like we were talking about, he went from 1,500 to 2,500 in 5 years.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is. A very interesting story he has to tell.
Yeah.
So it's good to see Akshat playing so well to begin this tournament.
Yeah, and he's only 17, I believe. He's only 17 years old, and he's here in St. Louis.
Actually, I believe Akshat is 18 or 19 now.
Okay.
But yeah, it's tough to keep. You know, it's like just yesterday. These kids, you know, they were so little, and now.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track. Time flies.
Yeah. So but still, you see those youngsters coming in today, and especially St. Louis has lots of grandmasters right now. Probably something is connected with the chess club, right?
Maybe.
Yes. I wonder if you make a poll, how many people made norms here in the tournaments. I mean, that would be a lot of norms.
Yeah. Well, that is some interesting research to be conducted. The problem with norms is you really have to look at individual tournament results and calculate for yourself. Because, I mean, other than asking the players, there's not some database. You can't go onto the World Chess Federation FIDE's website and see how many norms a player has. That is something I wish that there was a way you could do.
Right.
You know, it makes things so much easier. These Norm Congress tournaments, or the Norm Congress, the invitational tournaments that we have, where players specifically are there to earn norms, I have no problem asking them individually, you know, how many norms do you have?
Right.
But it would be good to have some kind of database you could go to and
true.
figure it out for yourself. Well, chess fans, we are wrapping the day up here for our broadcast. We still have several games left. We think we know what will happen, but we're not sure. But let's take a look at the standings for Group A, And, you know, you could say these are provisional right now because there are 2 games left, and it looks like they're both very even. Ganguly is playing Onischuk, and Bruzon is playing Edouard. Those games look like they might be draws, which would mean that every game in this field is drawn today, Vitaly.
I know, right? Like I say, friendship wins, and yeah. So
it happens too. These are really strong players, and the more strong players you get together, the more draws you're going to have. That's just the nature of the beast.
Right. I mean, if they play perfectly, if you play chess perfectly, probably it's supposed to be a draw.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting. So we're going to have 2 players at the top. Still, Jeffrey and Onischuk with 1.5 points.
Yes. Right. That would be what we're looking at. And as far as Group B goes, we can look at the standings for Group B. We have 1 game left in that section. Michalik is taking on Malkhasian, and like we said moments ago, Akshat Chandra going a perfect 2 for 2 so far in the tournament, defeating Aaron Grabinski. So, you know, Akshat's going to see if he can extend this lead. What's your take so far on this field?
Yeah, so it looks like Akshat is at the top of his game, and it looks like if Viktor Michalevsky will win that game, he's going to be on 2nd place with 1.5 points. Yeah, and then we have a few people with 1 point and then half a point. I think after this round, everybody's going to be warmed up. I mean, there's nobody with 0. Everybody is fighting for a win. Very, very exciting. Very exciting to see that.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of tough sometimes. You get to the 3rd round, or I mean, even after 2 rounds, and someone's still at dead 0. Just a big old goose egg. It's it's good for drama, but the morale gets so low. You know,
right.
This is still anyone's tournament here.
Right. Exactly. And especially like we've seen in the 1st round when Aaron Grabinski, if he can draw a Wonder Liang, then anything can happen.
Anything. And Aaron Grabinski, the replacement player for Grandmaster Tarjan, who is unable to play in this tournament. That's a big story there, you know. Can that affect you coming into a tournament that late notice? I know this isn't like boxing, but still, mentally, does that affect you at all?
Yeah, well, we have an advantage and a disadvantage. Well, I guess it's the preparation. Well, for me, if I would be Aaron Grabinski, well, I wasn't prepared. But so maybe I can just play whatever I want to. But on the other hand, other people will not prepared for me.
Works both ways.
Yeah.
Well, chess fans, I think that's going to do it for our broadcast today. We encourage you to keep on following the games at uschesschamps.com. And remember, each day, except for the last 2, at 1 p.m. Central Time, the games start. The rounds will begin. There's 1 round per day. This was the 2nd round. Tomorrow is the 3rd. It starts at 1 p.m. And we will be on the air at 3:30 p.m. Central for an abbreviated commentary session. So this show was produced by the world's greatest production B team. Tammy Hyde is our technical advisor. Jonathan Schrantz was bringing us interviews. Isaac Schrantz is on graphics and sound. Our technical director is Danny Machuca. I'm Ben Simon.
And I'm International Master Vitaly Neimer.
And until tomorrow at 3:30 p.m., this is us signing out and saying so long from the Show Me State.
Thank you.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.